And we're live. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Wheel Talk. Ho, 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 and Merry Christmas. Merry 3rd of December. And how the devil are you, Brittney?
I'm good. How are you?
I am awesome, super, fantastic, Christmassy AF, mate. So, how do you like Christmas? Are you in the spirit as much as me?
Normally I am, but this year is sort of getting away from me, which is crazy because I have friends that are completely done shopping everything by now, and we haven't set up our Christmas tree. We haven't done anything, and I'm feeling very like I don't know. I hate when the Christmas season gets like condensed and rushed and all of that stuff, and I'm already feeling like, oh my god, I have to catch up and all the things, and so it's a little stressing me out a little bit, but I'll be good.
Oh, well, that's cool. It cut out a little bit there. I really hope my internet connection stays strong for this. But yeah, what I got from that, because I don't know about it cut out for me, but that you're not as excited as about Christmas as I am, but you are still quite excited about it.
We only have one person watching, so I can't even be like, well, the one person can say, "Hey, can you hear me?" Or I can ask if they can hear me.
It's
Uh,
James. Of course,
yeah,
it's James.
of
Who
course
else would
he's
it be?
here. Yeah, exactly.
Hello,
Uh,
James. I hope you can
the,
hear us both. I don't know if we're having technical difficulties or not. I really hope not. Um, but let's move on. Just in case that there are no technical difficulties, and it was just me. Yesterday was a special day for you, Brittany. Tell me more about it.
yeah, it was the anniversary of my accident. And it's always crazy for me to reflect on it's sometimes I forget about it. Like for years, I totally forgot about it. You know, when I had new babies and other things that were just more consuming in my brain. But now that the kids are older, and especially now that Jacob's in his teens and stuff, around the same age that I was paralyzed, I find myself reflecting a lot on, the loss of life that happened with Blake, who passed away in the accident because he was just 14. And so I spend a lot of time thinking about his parents. And I texted his mom yesterday just to say, like, I hope you have a peaceful day. And, your son gives me so much inspiration to live a grateful life, because I do get to have all these experiences that he's missed out on. So that's how I kind of spent the day yesterday, was just sort of being grateful. And funnily enough, I was like tired. I tried to take a nap. I was falling asleep while I was editing, and I was just like, I'm not doing this. I'm just gonna like go lay down. So I just kind of like puttered around and didn't really accomplish much. But yeah, it was just a day of reflection, mostly just always a day of gratitude.
That's nice. Does it bring up any other awkward feelings for you, or is it just enough time has passed now that it's just another day?
I think enough time has passed that it's not just another day. I definitely think I reflect on all of the things that
Mm.
I've gotten to experience. But it doesn't ever bring up any negative feelings, other than me trying to imagine what his mom, like Blake's mom, would have felt like. And especially I actually started interviewing my family, because I'm going to do a video about their perspective. So that was kind of hard because we went through that, and I went through that with my mom. And there was like a part where my mom was crying quite a bit. My dad held it together though. Like my dad never cried at all during the little interview, and haven't done my brother and sister yet. But yeah, so that'll be interesting because I now realize that my accident made ripple sort of effects throughout everybody's lives, and not just mine, like my cousins, and even like my boyfriend and his family, and all of the different people that were connected to the accident in some way. And I hope that me interviewing sort of other people about what their perspectives were, it can help family members, because I know that my family went through a lot of crap that they never really got therapy for. And especially my brother and sister, my sister was older than me, so she had to take on a lot of responsibility when my mom was away at the hospital, my dad was working, and my little brother, who was, just like 10 years old and didn't have anybody. Like my sister was
Mm.
doing all the things, and my parents were both gone, and my grandparents were around, obviously, because they were staying at my house babysitting, but he was just sort of like alone, and nobody was talking to him about anything. And so I really wish that we'd really like taken the opportunity to have the therapy that was offered to us. But it was just weird because I
Mm.
always feel like therapists can either be really awesome or really awkward, and the ones that came to us were really awkward. And so it felt really uncomfortable, which, you know, if we had gone longer, it might have gotten better. But so yeah, we opted out of all of that stuff, and it probably was not a good idea.
Yeah, I bet you get so many interesting answers from those questions. Did you take inspiration from the video that I did?
Yes. Yeah. It was really helpful. Actually, when I asked you about how to do that video and you said to go watch that, it was helpful to me to see just like how you cut from question to answer to answer to answer. And so, yeah, I'm going to do that. Or I don't know if I'll
Yeah.
do as good a job as you, but it was helpful.
Yeah, I'm sure it'll be a beautiful personal project though, you know, like you must get some really wonderful answers. I remember it was such a rewarding thing that I did. It was so wonderful to hear those things and to edit it together felt a bit like, you know, pumping my own tires up, but it was really beautiful. How many years has it been now since your accident?
25.
Is it 25 yesterday?
Yeah, 25 yesterday. So,
That's a quarter of a century anniversary. That's a big milestone, mate. That's really cool. What
yeah.
do you think like the biggest lessons you've learned along the way?
Um, there's so many. I think the biggest lesson though is that anybody can handle anything. Because looking back on how I felt at the beginning of my accident and so many years of like hopelessness, helplessness, just feeling really lost, losing all of my confidence in terms of interacting socially and about my appearance and my body and all of these things that I've had to like fight to get back. Um, and I think that it just proves that you can really handle almost anything with the right attitude. I love, does anybody know who Michael J. Fox is?
Yeah, of
Back to the
course.
Future? Of course.
Yeah,
Okay.
Marty
Well,
McFly.
he's got a quote that I love that says, "With gratitude, optimism is sustainable," and I think that is so true. And I think that's what I've learned over the years is just that with enough things to be grateful for, or choosing to see things to be grateful for, optimism is sustainable. And then with optimism, it like allows you to accomplish your goals, or at least one at a time. So anyway, yeah, whoever's watching, you can handle it. I promise, and it'll be fine.
Yeah. So I know like early on you were, what's the word, enabled to like be quite lazy and like not like
Mhm.
very dependent. I guess you've spoken at length about that already. But yeah, I guess trying to be independent as possible is something that you could probably look back on and have that sort of, obviously hindsight's 2020, isn't it? But um, yeah. Also, what are the questions that you're asking your family? Do you mind sharing those?
Oh, I have I'm like trying to think if I have to get them up on my phone, but some of them were just like, where were you when you heard about my accident? How did you react? How did you react when you first saw me? What support did you get? Did you get any support? How did your role in the family change? Did any relationships within the family get worse or better? Just a bunch of stuff like that. And Chat GTP was like really awesome
Nice.
because I
Did you?
was like, I asked it to come up some questions.
Yeah. Did you ask the same questions to everybody?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Nice. Yeah,
then
that'll be a great video.
and then I would think of some other questions to ask based on the answers they gave. So there's a few questions here and there that are just specific to the person, but yeah.
Yeah, nice. That's really cool. Slight tangent, really, away from this, but as we were talking about, like the being as independent as possible. At the moment, there's a guy who's newly injured at the rehab center, and
Oh
I
yeah.
was trying to show him how to do a floor transfer. And so this is a question I was going to bring up. It kind of came up a little bit earlier than I expected. But what is a like a good time frame to like try and aim to be as independent as possible, because he's quite young, he's 22, he looks like fairly strong, but he's got like, again, he's like a very uh he's like got a C injury, so it's a neck injury, compromised hand strength, but like
Not
dexterity
fun.
wise
Yeah.
it's okay. It doesn't have any ab function, but when I said, "Oh, hey man, listen, like I'm gone next week, so like you and me have like this little window together. Why don't we work on floor transfers? I can show you how I do mine, and we can do it." And he was really reluctant to do that. He was like, "No, I don't want to get on the floor because I can't get back in the chair." And I was like, "Well, we're here. We're at rehab. This is the perfect time to get out of that comfort zone, you know, because you're going to have to learn this skill." And he seemed quite reluctant to do it. And in the end, he just was like, no, I don't want to do it. And I was like, all right, well, I'm not going to force you to do it. But I just thought, like, where's the balance between like saying to him, hey man, this is a really important skill you need to
Yeah.
learn, and also respecting that, yeah, I make it look easy. I've got a lot more upper body strength. I've got my abs. You don't have your abs, which makes it a lot harder. He also doesn't have spasticity, which I think makes it easier, because especially when I'm wrestling against my body, I feel like that is the main thing that stops me getting into my chair very quickly, is the spasms. And I just thought, let's do that together. But he was a
Yeah.
little bit reluctant to do that. So I don't know what your advice is around that, because you've got to navigate it delicately, right? You
Mhm.
can't just be like, come on, bruv. You know, stop being a,
Yeah.
you know, you've got to, but
Yeah.
also you've got to do it in your own time.
Yeah.
But so yeah, what advice?
I would say to anybody that is like afraid of doing certain things, especially in rehab or, with a disability, you never know if you don't try. Because I didn't try. I was that person. I was that person that couldn't get on and off the floor for 19 years. Like, I just learned this 6 years
Wow.
ago.
Yeah.
I just learned how to get on and off the floor 6 years ago. And I thought it was impossible when I first started, but I literally tried for probably like a year. And I was just like, I don't know how people do this. Joe was on the floor trying. He's like, the chair tips over when I try and lift myself in because I'm heavy. And so he was trying, and we were both trying to figure out different ways to do it. And then finally, I just did it enough that I figured out what worked for me, because you always have to work with your own disability, with your balance points, your center of gravity, with the muscles that you do have, because some people have more back muscle, some people have more ab muscle, some people don't have triceps, some people, and I have seen amazing things even from quadriplegics. Like
Yeah.
Ben Clark, I don't know if is it Ben Clark? He's a
From
guy
Adapt
from,
to Perform.
yeah,
Yeah,
he's a
yeah, yeah.
quadriplegic and he can do amazing transfers. So I think that you just have to really find somebody that gives you the advice and tools to do the thing that you want to do. So I watched lots of YouTube videos of people that were mid-level like paraplegics that had maybe one or two abs. I actually watched a lot of it's Brian Kinney, right? Brian?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. He's from Paralyzed Living or whatever.
Yeah,
Yeah. So
yeah,
I
yeah.
watched a lot of his videos because we're very similar injury level. He's actually a little bit higher than me.
Mhm.
So I knew that if I watched a person that was a little bit higher than me, then I had no excuse. So I was like, if he can do it, I have to be able to do it. And I don't do it the same way he does it. But I still figured out how to do it. So yeah, you'll never know if you don't try, and try a bunch.
Yeah, I think you've got to fail probably at least 100 times, unless you're like really, unless you are one of those people that just nail it. I failed at least 100 times, like trying to, and I was trying the technique that a lot of people see where you swing your bum round. And in
Yeah,
the
I
end, I
can't
was
do
like,
it.
oh, hold on. Like, I just grabbed the back of my chair and then I was like, ooh. And then I just, I was like, okay, I found a way that I can do it. Like, because I've got like the
Yeah.
strength to lift that like up in that way. But a part of me, so another thing, again, like, another thing that he drives to rehab actually, and I think it's really cool that he's driving already, but he has his wheelchair in the boot, so he has to like call the therapist out to come and get the wheelchair out for him.
Oh,
And
yeah,
I
that's good.
remember like I sending him a video of like how I get the chair in and out, and thinking that like it's not that hard to get your chair in and out, but at the same time I get it, like I'm in a weird position of like, because I've been there and done it, I know it's not that big a deal, like you can do it if you want to. But
Yeah.
I want to be delicate enough to say, take your time, like, my time frame isn't the same as your time frame, and my level of injury is the same as yours, but like I kind of want to be like, hey man, like I'm only here for 2 more sessions, like try and, if you want, I don't know, if you want me to help you in any way, like I know he only lives down the road, but it's like it's unlikely that we'll cross paths that much, but we're literally at rehab together for this little window, and I'm kind of like wanted to push him, like,
Yeah.
but at the same time, I don't want to guilt trip him into thinking that he should be further ahead on his journey.
Yeah, that it is a really hard thing to do because some people want the information right away, and then some people just don't. Like, I am guilty of like giving people so much information because I know that I only have a short time with some of them and they're never going to contact me again because they're going to feel too uncomfortable to maintain the relationship, the mentorship relationship. So sometimes I'm just like, here's everything. And then people get overwhelmed and then they do feel really shitty about where they are. And it can actually plunge some people into like a depression type of state. And so it's really hard to know who those people are that can be pushed, because for me, when I met people in wheelchairs, and I always joke that my friend Margaret called me pathetic, that was very effective for me. It was extremely effective. I was like, whoa, I'm pathetic. I better get to work. And then when I met a rehab doctor that was like, you are wasting your potential like a lot. And there are plenty of people that I see on a daily basis that, you know, would trade places with you in a heartbeat. They'll take your hands if you don't want them. And when he said that, I was like, oh, okay, I better get to work. So tough love for me is extremely effective. And then for other people, it's extremely ineffective. So I think I would try to push people. And if they like push away, then, you know, then you kind of know that there's a limit there, but you can't help everybody. And some people are just going to stay in this little safe box. I did it for years. I didn't know how to get my wheelchair in and out of my vehicle until my van that I had fully adapted after I was hurt got wrecked. And then I needed to figure out how to get into a vehicle because I had kids and I had a life to live. So I couldn't waste time. And then Joe had to go to work and I was like, well, my wheelchair is out there and I'm in here. So I better get it in. And I figured it out.
Absolutely. I just want to address this comment. Fredo, can you do a floor transfer video sometimes? I've fallen out of the chair and had to call first responders. I think his resistance is coming from a place where they have not fully accepted it. Thank you for the comment. There is a video on my channel about floor transfers. You could just find it. I don't know. Maybe we can put the link in the description, but we always say that and forget. But yeah, you can just search it on my channel. I've got one. I've got a certain technique that works for me. I've also done one where I fall out of the bike, the hand bike, and that is like next level floor transfer.
Yeah.
So you got to like disconnect the bike and then transfer on there, and that is quite advanced. So there's lots of. Also, there's the one where I went camping. It's interesting when you do a floor transfer video, you kind of nail it, right? Because you got to get the take that's like good enough to upload. But the one where I went camping was actually a really good, honest take at like, this is what a floor transfer sometimes looks like. And I struggled really hard to get back in my chair because the chair was on gravel. Every time I pushed against it, it went back. And I tried so many different times to get back in it. And I said, like, quite honestly, sometimes this is what a floor transfer looks like. I've been injured 5 years. I'm quite strong. I don't have much trouble getting in my wheelchair when my legs are completely relaxed. But when they're really spazzy, it takes me a while. It takes me 5, 6, 7 attempts. But this is a brutally honest look. So that was quite a cool. That video actually got a really good response because I think sometimes when you look at a floor transfer video, you're like, oh my God, that like he made that look easy. Yeah. And I'm like, yeah, sometimes it is. Sometimes it's a little bit harder.
Yeah, I know. I once recorded myself trying to do the transfer the way Brian does it, where he just swings his bum, and I actually got it, but I did it every day for a month, and I recorded every morning that I was trying it, and then I put it all together in like a video, and then the day that I finally got it, and it was awesome. People loved it because they could see that I was failing so many times, and I wish that I did that more. But you just don't think about it, really. You just don't think about it. Once you get good at it, then you're like, oh, I'm going to whip the camera out and I can take a video of this that can help somebody else. But really, it's the struggle and seeing the struggle that's probably more helpful to people that are struggling with it, because then they can feel, less alone and more like they're not failures.
Yeah, 100%. I was going to address this comment as well from Sonia. Hey, Sonia. I guess holding his balance sitting in the car and grab the wheelchair frame at the same time is quite an ordeal for a low-level quad because he might need more than 2 hands. That is a great point. Really, really good point. But there are people that use the seatbelt. So they put the seatbelt on and then they lean out so they don't, fall. So there's ways to do it. There's techniques to do it. And again, I don't want him to think that he's behind the curve. I'm just kind of like, sort of like, hey man, you could do this, it's not that hard a skill to learn. Like, how many times have you tried it, kind of thing. The other thing that I'll be honest with, which is holding us back from communicating, is I said it in the last one. he doesn't speak English, so I'm speaking French. My French
Mm,
is okay, but like it's not the same as speaking the native language. Because in the native language, I could like have banter, I could have jokes, and be like, "Oh, come on, buddy," you know what I mean? Whereas that's lost
yeah.
where I'm like conversational French.
Yeah.
You know, so there's that as well.
It is really hard when there's a language barrier to communicate effectively and like with empathy, so that people feel like, oh, they're on my side, instead of, yeah, it's just really hard. But I would try pushing as much as possible, because I feel like sometimes people have to be kind of feel bad in order to want to change. And I think that, like, in today's society, we do too much of like encouraging very little.
Mm.
And I think that was part of my problem in rehab. Like, if I did one transfer or tried to calf, like everybody was like, oh, she's so great. She's 13. She's doing great at 13, when it didn't matter that I was 13. I had to be treated exactly like I was 25, because I was going to have to do that stuff anyway. So any teenager that I ever meet, I sit down with their parents and I sit down with them and I say, I get that it's disgusting to stick your finger up your butt to poop. I get that it's really nasty and you really don't want to do that at your age. And it sucks that you have to, but it doesn't matter whether you're 13 or 35. It's just as gross. And
Mm.
it's way better to learn it now, so that you feel confident at 17, 18, than feeling so insecure because you need somebody's help to go to the bathroom when you have the ability. If you don't have the ability, by all means, you have a caregiver. That is how you maintain autonomy and independence. You are still you're still in control of your life, and you control when you go to the bathroom and all those things. And you just need help to do it. But if you can do it, it's like a mental thing that then
Mm.
starts to really weigh on you, that I can do this and I'm not allowing myself to be independent when I should be. I just
Yeah.
want to address this. Sorry, just one sec. Here it is. If I had one arm. So this is my friend Travis. He's amazing, by the way. He is a super high level quadriplegic. Like, he has to, I think you have to use a sip and puff thing to push your chair, right, Travis? I actually never pay attention when we're together how you're pushing your chair, but I know it's not with your hands because you can't use them. And he is the most positive, amazing person ever. He does so many things. Like, right now, he races like RC cars, and he finds whatever he can to stay active and engaged with life. I've had him on my channel before, and he's amazing. So he would take anything, one finger, like just one finger, to be able to move one finger. So anybody that's wasting their abilities, come on.
Yeah.
Travis would be like, if he could, he would bitch slap you.
Well, like I say, I don't want to like paint this guy in a light that is unfair.
Yeah.
I think what my point is like our time together is very limited, man, and I kind of feel like I want to impart as much knowledge on him as possible. I'm like, look, we've got two more sessions together. Like, what do you want to learn from me? Like, is there any? Maybe it's just like, look, you've got a different injury to me. I don't relate to you, or I don't know what his. I think I'm putting pressure on myself to like help him because I'm like, hey, like I don't know. I kind of also we live in a very small town. Like there's not that many other wheelchair people. There's like one other guy.
Yeah.
And I kind of like maybe I'm sort of actually I've never even considered this, but maybe I'm doing it from a selfish perspective. I'm like I get to be the in-person mentor, not just the online
Yeah.
presence. I'm like, come on, man, like let's do stuff together. Maybe he's just not ready. Maybe he does need a little bit more time. But yeah, I don't know. When you just know what's capable, and I just think that sometimes I just want to be like, hey, you can,
Yeah.
these skills are important. Like, let's do it together.
Yeah. I think that's one of those things that you gotta let him figure out what his goal timeline is. So
Yeah. And on
speaking
that
of,
note,
yeah, speaking of goals, see that? That was,
loved it, loved it.
yeah.
On that note, I am ending my rehab journey. I had my last little rendezvous with the doctor yesterday, and he was really nice. Remember last time I spoke, he was like, there's a 1% chance you'll stop taking Baclofen altogether. And I was like, yeah, whatever, mate, I'll prove you wrong. I just had a lovely chat with him yesterday, and actually my French has improved quite a lot because we spoke the entire time just in
Yeah.
French, and it was maybe like a little bit of a broken conversation, but it was we didn't resort to English, which was quite cool. But yeah, I just said, look, I'm happy with 40 milligrams a day, man. I've come down from 120 milligrams to 40 milligrams. more than 40, my body is just rigid. It's just rigid. I've got a good friend that advised me to just, don't push it too far. Like hit, your quality of life is more valuable than like the amount of baclofen you take. And I'm happy. I've achieved a lot of goals here.
Yeah.
I've made some friends. I've stayed active. I've been stretching a hell of a lot more, which I think contributes to the spasticity being lower as well. Passive stretching with my physio, stretching on my own, and I've just had a really great time. And that was it, really. We just had a little nice little roundup, and it just feels really nice because next week I'm starting work, which will be a new challenge. So finishing rehab, starting work, and Chris has also started work. December's kicking off. It snowed here. People have gone snowboarding, and like the winter season is upon us. Christmas is here, and yeah, it's just it's pretty cool.
Yeah. So baclofen was the main goal for going back to rehab, right? Just figuring out how to reduce spasticity. What are some other goals that you had? I just want to ask you this. Like, if you're wrapping up the year that you're like proud of, that you're like, oh, I did that this year.
That is a really good question that I'm really unprepared for.
I was thinking about this and I'm like, I can't even think of one. So I'm like, I hope he has one.
What am I? Well, okay, a little one. This is going to sound a bit silly, but it just sprung to mind. I have had a fantastic year with Christina. Like, we got together like over a year ago, but this year, like, just maintaining a beautiful relationship with really open communication. Still buzzing from the afterglow of the experience I had, last week. Just really feels like we've got such a deep connection, really beautiful, and we, making the decision to move in together, and just, I guess, maintaining a mature relationship where, I spoke about this with Benji, and just like the conversations that we've had have been so mature. So like the conflict resolution, for example, has been so much. I think I've just learned so much from past experiences with past partners, and so have we have. And we're trying so hard not to repeat past mistakes and just move forward like consciously. And yeah, just I think that's what I'm really proud of, is just being a bloody good boyfriend, and having such a wonderful partner and being supportive of one another. Another thing I'm really proud of is that back in I can't remember what the streak on my app is. Like, I think 180 days now of like monitoring my
I was gonna say,
putting all my, like, weighing all my food. I've lost 6 kilos now, and like I'm pretty like going to the gym 3 times a week. So yeah, like getting buff, and maintaining a great relationship, and just being like really healthy. Like, genuinely, like I'm eating so much more healthy now, that now I'm being really conscious about eating. I guess those two things, and having Chris doing it as well is so supportive, that we like, let's put it in the app, like what we've had for dinner. That's really much easier doing that as a couple, than just to be like, I don't really care what I've eaten. So yeah, I think those two things are something I'm really, really proud of. And obviously the baclofen.
Yeah, that's awesome. Joe and I were counting calories for a while, and I've counted calories many, many times over the years. I just can never keep it up. And I have like a weird mental thing that I lose my ability to eat intuitively when I start counting calories. And it just messes up my whole everything. Because then I worry if I'm like, I'm only at 500 calories today, but I'm not hungry. Maybe I should eat some more. I haven't had. So then I start getting like weird. And then if I eat over my calories, then I'm like, I can't eat. I've had like 20 or 1800 calories today instead of 1200 or 1300. And so it really messes me up, because I really do eat intuitively most of the year. So I've done lots of work on intuitive eating in the past. So I'm back to intuitive eating, but I love that you have stuck to your regimen, because it's obviously working very well for you. And yeah, you look amazing. So that's cool. I was trying to think of like something very specific that like I have like tried to work on this year, and this year went by so fast, to be honest. Like, I feel like I went to Mexico for January of last year, or of this year, I guess. It's like, but you know what I mean? It's almost last year. And then it just went like zooming past. I had so much to do in the summertime, and I was like so lazy with YouTube, trying to catch up with stuff. I missed like 3 weeks sometimes, 2 weeks sometimes. So it was like terrible. So this year, I don't know that I have any very specific goals that I stuck to. Yeah, I can't even really think of like one thing that I'm like super proud of that I accomplished this year. Because I like
Oh.
went off like not like entirely, but like I didn't work out as consistently. I had like a weird busy summer, all kinds of stuff. But yeah, it was weird.
Wait,
But I'm glad that you have lots of things to be proud of.
thanks, but you've been uploading consistently this year. You've created some really good videos. You made a really good you wrote a really good song. You've been a really good mum, definitely. From the things that you've shared with me on the podcast. In fact, we've stuck with the podcast. That's another thing to be proud of. We've got
That
I
is
don't
one
know
thing.
how many episodes now, but like it's must be a lot, and we do it every week, so that's
Yeah.
really cool.
Yeah.
And we've got to know each other a lot better. But yeah, I think one of the things that I think you should be proud of is just being a really good mum, because the Amazing Race thing, all the different things like taking Jacob to boxing, being so supportive. I think they like some of the things that you've said. I'm like, wow, you know, there are so many wonderful what's the word qualities that you have as a mother that I
Yeah.
think your kids probably take for granted. There are so many like dickheads out there that have kids, and you are just like right up there in the top 10%, I reckon.
I try really hard. It's just not necessarily, it's like an ongoing goal. So that's one thing. Like, I'm married. So obviously I'm working on my marriage all the time. And Joe and I consistently work on like better communication and things like that. Just this morning, we had a phone call about Christmas because I was like, don't buy me Christmas presents. I don't need anything or want anything. And then he looked upset about it. And I was like, well, do you want to buy me a Christmas present? Even though I don't know what I want. And then I called him. He's like, no, I don't care. It's fine. It's fine. I just sometimes want you to stop stressing out about money so that you can just like get a gift that even if you don't need it is like, and I'm just like, okay, whatever. So we're always like improving our communication that way. And I think I try to be a good mom. Sometimes I'm like, I don't do like, some parents are just over the top good, like Elf on the Shelf and like doing all these crazy advent calendar things for Christmas. And I'm like, oh my God, like, no way, man. I'll do the fun things like 3 times a year when I have the
Mm.
energy for it. And then the rest of the time, I'm like, let's play cards or cuddle on the couch or watch a Christmas movie. But yeah,
That's amazing. That's such a great. That's still being a great mum.
yeah,
Hey,
I think so
listen,
too. Yeah.
I want to offer you a different perspective on the gift thing. Have you ever considered that Joe? It isn't like an obligation for Joe to get you a gift. Maybe he really wants to give you a gift. You know, like
Yeah.
the gift. Like for me, if my girlfriend said, "Don't get me anything for Christmas," I'd be well annoyed. Like I love giving
Yeah.
gifts, even if they're silly things. Like we've got the advent calendar thing that I told you about last week. So we've started that, which is really cool. But yeah, if you like take away, if you just tell him, maybe he's already got you a gift, and he's like, oh shit, you know, I'm gonna better take that back then, you know. So
Yeah.
you know how wonderful it is to give gifts at Christmas, right? So don't deprive him of that, Joe. If you're watching, maybe that's not the case. Now you're like, God, shut up, damn it, I was out, you know, I was like almost didn't have to get her a gift, but maybe there's another layer there that, and he really wants to
Yeah.
give you a gift.
I think that's what it was. It was just like I am always like a stressor out about money. Um and sometimes like not all the time. Like when we go on holidays and stuff, I secretly stress about money. But I let people, enjoy their holiday. It's just I stress out about it. Um because I don't know, I just want to be prepared for our future and all that stuff. So he doesn't like that I do that. And so we, conflict about that sometimes. But yeah, I think he does want to give me a gift. I just was trying to convince him not to.
It doesn't
So
have to be an extravagant gift, but you
yeah,
got to open
exactly.
something on Christmas Day, right? You got, yeah. And
Yeah.
surely there's part of you that wants to exchange a gift as well, you know?
Yeah, I want to get other people gifts. I just don't want them to spend money on me.
Yeah,
That's
it's
my
okay.
thing. But yeah.
Uh,
Um
there was a really good book called Die with Zero by Bill Perkins. I think that's the author, and it was about you know, how backwards it is to save for your retirement and then like have all this money, and how many retired people die with like money in the bank. And he's like, the goal should be to die with zero, and how like turn those numbers on a screen into valuable life experiences. Like, why do people do that? And I listened to it on an audiobook, and I was like, holy shit, what a great thing. And he like spent this one birthday he had on this. I mean, I don't know how much money. He's obviously got a lot of money, but he spent this birthday where he flew all of his family to an island and had this most extravagant party that cost him like most of his retirement fund. But he was like, this is what I wanted to do with my money, you know? And then due to the nature of like compounding interest, like whatever, he managed to get most of that money back because I don't know. It was
Yeah.
I'm doing a terrible job of explaining it, but basically he spent a ridiculous amount of money on this wonderful experience, and he was like, it's like I've died and gone to heaven. This is exactly how I want to spend my money. And it was a really convincing way of like, we're taught in society to like whittle away our savings and then just save and, you know, invest in assets that appreciate and, you know, like to get
Yeah.
this number on a screen as big as possible. It's like a life score, you know? And then his point of view was like, that's not what life's about. And I was like, you
Yeah.
know what, Bill, you've got a bloody good point there, pal.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
think that's like I do agree, and I think there's a balance, but I have this thing like with trying to build generational wealth like for my kids so that they don't have to struggle as much, especially with the economy and all that stuff. So, I think I worry about that a little bit just so that I'm like I want my kids to have a little bit more of a leg up, but I read so many books that talk about kids whose parents work their ass off to give them, you know, an easier life. And then they end up just being entitled assholes. So you never really know like what the answer is, right? But yeah.
100%. There's a chapter in the book that Bill says about passing down the wealth and about how I can't remember exactly because it was a while ago, but he definitely had an answer to that question. And I was like,
Yeah.
yeah, but what about, you know, kids? And he was like, he answered the question. I was like, oh, that's a good answer. I can't remember exactly what it was, but it was a good one. So it's a definitely Die with Zero. Great book.
Die with
I would
zero.
100% recommend it.
I'm
Maybe it could
gonna
at least ease your anxiety about money, even if there was some
yeah.
middle ground. You know, it's not like, oh shit, let's go and blow all our money immediately, but like it could just be like, oh, okay, let's not
Yeah.
aim to, you know,
Yeah, exactly. I'll read it. I'm sure it'll ease my like I have a weird anxiety about money because I don't really have anxiety about money. I just have like a weird like thing about it spending a lot of it at once.
oh
Right?
mate,
Which
me
is like
too.
weird because I can spend a little bit every day and it never stresses me out. And it might be the same amount that I spend in one day separately, but it doesn't stress me out as much, which is really weird. It's like Joe when we go to the grocery store. If he could go to the grocery store every day and fill his like little basket, doesn't get stressed out. But if we go once a month and if he's at the grocery store with me and our basket gets really full, like he visibly gets like stressed out, like, oh, okay, we're done. We're done. We're not putting another
Mm.
thing in this basket, which he never goes grocery shopping with me for that reason. Cause I'm like, shut up. I'm buying cheese or whatever. And he's like, no, we're done. We're leaving.
Yeah.
So it's funny, but
It's weird though
yeah.
because I have. Do you ever get this right? I don't know if you can relate to this, but if I spend money on my girlfriend, I'm like, oh, that's a great, you know, she's really happy with that. No matter if it's a small gift, an extravagant gift. If I spend money on myself, I have a real guilty feeling. It's like really weird. In fact, there's a science to it. Apparently, if you spend money on other people, it makes you happy. If you spend money on yourself, it's got this weird reverse psychology of guilt feeling. But yeah, when I buy myself like an extravagant gift, I'm like, oh God, could I really afford that? Maybe I should have like not bought that.
Yeah.
Yeah, especially being in a wheelchair, you know, because like wheelchair toys are very expensive. But yeah, I don't know if you can relate to that.
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah. I spend money on the kids, no problem. Like I could buy
Mm.
them hundreds of dollars, thousands of dollars worth of things and never ever think about it. You want to do this lesson? Sure. You want to go on this, trip for your sports? Absolutely. Hotels, whatever. We'll do something fun. But yeah, if it's for me, I think I feel a little bit guilty. It depends on how much I'm doing it. I've gone on a couple of girls' trips that have like they've maybe cost me like $1,000. And I haven't felt guilty about it because I don't go that often and, that kind of stuff. But yeah, I'm weird about things like clothes. Like I buy clothes at Goodwill or Value Village and things like that. Cause I go and I'm like, this sweatshirt is $70. I'm like, what? Like who spends money on that?
Yeah.
Except anybody who wants to buy my sweatshirts from my shop. You can spend $70 on a sweatshirt. Just kidding. That I never would like ever be like, yeah, it's even like hard for me to have. I want to have more merch because I think there's so many cool things and I actually designed a bunch, but I'm like, it's so annoying that the sweatshirts are so expensive. And I'm like, oh, it's can't handle it. But yeah, I have a weird relationship with money and certain things because I'll spend so much money on food. I will spend like organic eggs, like $8 a dozen. And then I'm like, I will not spend $20 for that shirt that I'm going to wear 100 times, but I will spend, $1 per egg and that's going to be gone. So I'm like a weird like that, which Joe is like the opposite. He's like no organic food, no quality food kind of thing. Just yeah, so it's weird. But anyway, I wanted to share this like interesting thing that happened on the weekend. It wasn't interesting, it was kind of scary actually. So Jacob had this is just like turning the corner in the conversation. I went to Jacob's boxing fight, another boxing fight, because he's been doing a lot of competitive boxing fights, which he lost, unfortunately. But it was a split decision, and I am really not sure how he lost because I watched the tape like a bunch of times. I'm like, I don't know how you lost that fight, but it must be the points that they land, not necessarily what the fight looks like.
Yeah.
But anyway, so we watched his boxing fight, which was fine. And it's always like a little bit stressful for me. And then we realized that there was going to be some Muay Thai kickboxing after the actual boxing events. And I was like, okay, I've never seen this before. I thought it was like kickboxing, just kickboxing, but it's like knees, elbows, like you can knee people, elbow people. It's crazy. And so watching this was so stressful. And I'm sitting by these young kids who are in this club like that we're at, and they're watching their coaches fight. And I'm like, this is crazy. You guys want to do this? And then the one kid's like, it's way better for your brain because Muay Thai actually gives you more superficial injuries on your body, like on your ribs and stuff, but you don't get as much concussion risk because they're in boxing. You're primarily trying to hit people in the head. And so I was like, oh, is that true? So I'm like looking it up, and then it's like introduces the last fight. And like a minute into the fight, this guy round kicks the other guy, knocks him out cold. He drops to the floor, hits his head so hard, and he is out for no joke, like half hour. I thought this guy was dead. It was so scary. The doctor was up there. Everybody was quiet. Nobody did anything. And then all of a sudden they're like, move the chairs. The ambulance is coming. And I'm like looking at these kids who were like, Muay Thai's better. And they're like, their hands are in their head is in their hands. They're just like freaking out because it's their coach that like went out.
Oh, really?
Oh my God. It was so scary. I kept thinking, what if this guy got paralyzed? Like I was so worried about his spinal cord. Like my initial thought was, what if this guy just like got his, like, cause he got round kicked on the side of the head. I'm like, what if he broke his neck and he's just paralyzed? It was so scary. But yeah, that was my crazy thing that I witnessed on the weekend. And I get that like knockouts happen in fighting sports, but I've never ever witnessed anything like that. And when somebody just crumples like from a standing position and then like whacks their head so hard, it was freaky.
Were they wearing protective headgear?
No.
Yeah,
so the first Muay Thai fight, they had headgear and they had shin guards and they didn't have their elbows unlocked. Then the second one, they had they didn't have shin guards and they had no head protection, but the elbows weren't unlocked. And then the main event was no headgear, no shin guards, and their elbows were unlocked. So it was the most violent thing I've ever seen in my life. Like the amount of bruising and scratching that those people had at the end of the fights. And just, I was like, whoa, like entertaining for sure, because boxing fights are, are not like that. But it was crazy. It was so crazy.
Yeah. Well, I watch a lot of UFC, so I can understand exactly how that went down and how scary that must have been to see in real life. But yeah, it is wild. I also heard on a podcast recently that even if you win a fight, like a MMA fight or any sort of fight, boxing, whatever, even if you win, sometimes it takes you weeks to recover because, sometimes you barely win, like the other guy really beats you up and then like you end up knocking him out. So unless you're like, you like get one good punch in early on and you knock the guy out, both guys are pretty fucked for like weeks afterwards, like recovering with like bruises everywhere. So yeah, UFC and like mixed martial arts, kickboxing, Muay Thai and all that stuff is wildly violent. And it's not something that I would ever do, but something I really enjoy watching because I don't know, for some reason it's just one of those things, isn't it? It's like you're just drawn to it. You're like, whoa, that guy just got knocked out so bad. And yeah, I don't know. I like watching like knockout compilations on YouTube and stuff. I don't know why. It's just a man. It's just yeah, I know.
When they're okay, I think it's like that when they're gonna get up. Like as soon as the guy like after maybe like 20 minutes, we're all just like sitting there, and the doctor told him to move his legs so that, you know, he knew that he was okay. And he moved his legs, and everybody just cheered because it was like, oh my God, he's okay. But oh my God, Travis just took me 1 week to recover. The high-level quadriplegic. My funniest thing with Travis, I asked him about his accident one time and about what was the scariest part to him. And he said that he was on the ground and his biggest fear was that bugs were crawling all over him and he couldn't move his body. And I was like, shock is an amazing thing. But oh my God, that was just funny. Anyway, yeah, they take so long to recover. Even Jacob, like, his nose has been broken like 4 times. And he was like, you need to like fix my nose. I need to get a nose job sometime. And I'm like, not if you're ever boxing again. I'm like, I am not paying for a nose job for you to just break that thing again. Like, it's so wonky now. It's funny.
Wow, really interesting. And what is he, like 16?
Yeah, he's 16, which they don't even.
4 times.
I think it's like 4, like maybe not 4. I think it's 4 times. Like, it's, I swear to God, anytime his nose bleeds, his nose is like out of shape. It's definitely been broken a couple of times. I don't know what 4 times, but yeah.
That is wild. Yeah, I mean,
interesting.
I did Wing Chun when I was like in my early 20s, and I've only been in 2 fights ever. One was I won't go into this unless you want to hear about it, but yeah.
That's really funny. There's so many of those fighting sports that have different names. I can't even keep track of it all.
Yeah, Wing Chun's like close range combat, like Bruce Lee. You know, like
really?
the 1-inch punch. That's Wing Chun. Yeah. That's cool. I thought that Wing Chun was the tits. You know, like because when you see your instructor and how like tough he is, you're like, oh my God, like this guy's the hardest guy I've ever met in real life. He could beat up anyone. And then you realize when you start watching mixed martial arts, you're like, oh, okay, Wing Chun isn't actually. I mean, obviously it's far superior than having no fighting skills. Yeah. But like probably the best one like these days is like Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu apparently, and kickboxing. Like kickboxing for striking, and then Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu for like grappling. But yeah, it's wild. I do enjoy watching it. It's just very addictive to see people like just people at peak level athleticism, you know, like you see them and you're like, holy shit, these 2 massive motherfuckers are gonna fight each other. How exciting. I have no idea who's gonna win, but like they are huge. And on Instagram, I've actually deleted Instagram off my phone today because it's too much. But the Instagram have been feeding me up these videos that are really funny of like people getting knocked out in like UFC matches, but then AI has changed it. So for example, there's this one where the guy gets knocked out and then he's like, ooh, and then he just ends up like riding a little bicycle away. So weird. And it just cracks me up so much. But the infinite scroll, I was like, oh my God, I've wasted so much time watching all these silly AI videos. They're so wild these days, like the AI stuff, everything. Like I was just laughing my tits off the other day, just like scrolling. And I was just like, this is too much. Too much. It's too, way too addictive. I have to stop it. Like it's compulsive. So yeah, I know we've spoken about this too much, but yeah, it's wild.
I'll share another thing that I'm like sort of nervous, excited about. I have to perform the music at a Christmas party it's like the Spinal Cord Injury Alberta is like a nonprofit here that helps people with spinal cord injuries, and they have a Christmas party every year. And my friend works for them, and so he was like, "Can you do the music?" And I was like, he's like, "I know you play guitar and stuff." And I was like, "If you can't find anybody, I can." And then he was just like, "Yeah, we can't find anybody." So I was like, "Okay, fine, I'll do the music." But then my friend he's a professional piano player, and at I've had like some parties at his house, and a guy that is another professional piano player was playing there once. And so I like roped him into doing the music, but then he like got his duo partner who plays drums to come too. So now it's like, I'm like somehow like singing with like a real like band, and it's like really awkward and weird. But I went to practice at his house on Sunday, and it was super fun, like super awesome drummer, super fun piano player. And now I have to sing all these Christmas songs and hope I don't screw them up when I've just practiced like one day, and they're like a piano show, like, and a comedy duo. So they're good at like interacting with the crowd. And I'm like, do I have to entertain people? Like, do I have to be like, I don't know. So it's going to be really interesting, but I'll try and take some video of it to show either how terrible or how amazing I do. But
Oh, please do. I'm learning more about you all the time, Brittney. I didn't know that you were musically gifted.
oh my God, it's going to be so, I love singing and I wanted to do, I love karaoke and stuff like that. So I'm not as nervous as like I might be if I was like not musical in any way, but um yeah, I'm more just like weird about entertaining the crowd and stuff. But I think we're gonna like do it more like Christmas karaoke, everybody sing along. So I'm gonna get off the computer when I'm done this, or get on the computer when I'm done this, and type out all the words on slideshows so that we can like have it up on PowerPoint. And then people can
That's
sing along
cool.
with me. So, but yeah.
So hold on, I had no idea. You play guitar and sing and rap.
I do play guitar. I play piano. I play guitar.
No way.
Um, and I sing. Yeah. But I'm
That's
not
so
like,
cool. I did not know that about you.
you didn't know I play guitar?
I had no idea you played guitar.
Oh, yeah. I learned a couple years ago. My whole family plays guitar. They're very musical, other than my sister. She can't play anything.
That's cool.
If you're watching this, Brett, get it together. Like we've gotten you so many instruments, and it's time. The ukulele should be easy enough to learn. Other than my sister, she can sing really well, but she's never played anything. But yeah, so I learned a couple years ago to play guitar so that I could keep up with my family, because my dad's getting older and he doesn't always want to play at things, and everybody loves for him to play when we're camping and at Christmas and stuff. And I just wanted to be able to like play when people sang. And so yeah, that's kind of my talent now.
Amazing.
Yeah, so and now but yeah, I didn't have the confidence to play the guitar and sing in front of like 150 people, which is not a lot of people, and they're all just like people I know. And
I would argue that is a lot of people. If I had to perform in front of 150 people, that would be in fact, isn't it weird that you like say if a YouTube video gets 150 views, you're like,
yeah,
oh,
you're
that
like,
sucks. But if you have to perform in front of 150 people, all of a sudden that's a huge amount of people. You're like, oh my God.
yeah, I know. I don't think it's like a crazy amount, but I just like, I don't feel comfortable like not trying not to mess up the chords when I'm playing and singing. And so I roped these other people into playing the music, which they're professionals. It just feels very weird to be playing or to be singing with professionals that like do this for a living, that's all they do is travel and book shows and stuff. So, yeah, I feel a little weird about it. And they keep assuring me that like I'm doing well and I have a good voice, but I'm like, I always have this thing that people will just tell me that anyway. But I'm pretty sure that they wouldn't ask me to sing in front of 150 people if I sucked. So
That is crazy though, because like you being the singer, you're in the spotlight, you're the centerpiece, aren't you? It's not just like, oh, I'm performing with a band. You're like, no, I'm center stage.
yeah.
Yeah.
Which, like I said, I'm hoping that it's gonna be more like a Christmas sing along and people are gonna be singing, but if not, then whatever. And I'm more worried about like because he just plays the piano and he'll change it. Like he what was it? He took Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, but he played like a Journey song behind it, and he was like, "Hey, we're gonna play this, and you're gonna sing this," and I'm like, "Okay." So he's so used to doing like mashups and stuff that he's just like, we'll play a different intro to a Christmas song. And he's like, it's this song, so start singing. And I'm like, okay. And then he just stops the song like randomly, like at certain places, because he's just like, the crowd doesn't want that song forever. So we're just going to end right now. And so I'm like,
Nice.
I don't know, but
yeah,
we'll
that's
be fine.
cool. Just having a jam, just jamming along with a little Christmas jam. That sounds so cool.
Essentially, yeah. So I'll try to take some video of it and see.
Do
how
you
I
have do you have like a go-to favorite song if you had to perform in front of a crowd?
Not really. We're doing like I have the list of songs here, and he's so cool that like I just wrote the list. This is our rehearsal. He
Oh,
just like
nice.
he figured out my key, and he like he can just change the piano like immediately. And he was like, no, let's change a different key. We'll do it in this one. So he wrote down my keys for all these different songs. So there's like a bunch of Christmas songs that I thought were like easy that I wouldn't forget the words to, like Away in a Manger, Deck the Halls, Frosty the Snowman, that kind of stuff. I don't even know what your songs are in Europe, so you might not even know any of these songs, or maybe they're all the same. I have no idea.
No, we have those songs. We're not
Okay,
we're not,
well, I
we're
don't
not,
know.
Mars, mate. We're just across the pond.
Well,
Yeah.
I don't know, but like I have some friends that live in Australia. Their Christmas is entirely different. Like they have seafood at Christmas and it's like
Well,
so different.
Yeah, because they're in a different hemisphere. It's the middle of summer
Yeah,
over there, isn't it?
true. But
We still
anyway,
have
yeah.
Christmas songs.
Yeah, so I'm excited about that. Excited and nervous, but I also roped my friend Katie, who's also my agent, into singing with me. So I'm like, you have to come up on stage with me. She's like, okay, if you really need somebody, I'll come sit with you.
How do you feel about playing the guitar and singing at the same time? Because I also play the guitar, but not very, very well at all. But like I have before, and that does offer a certain level of complexity. How are you feeling about that?
I'm pretty good at like if I'm like I said, the reason that I wanted to just sing for this event is so that I didn't have to play the guitar and sing, but I'm pretty good at doing both as long as I know the song really well. Like I can play with my family and I can definitely like play a song through. Yeah, so I'm okay at playing and singing at the same time. As long as I know the word, you have to like either know the words well or the chords well, because you can't really like be looking at the words and the chords at the same time. So
yeah,
as long as either of those things is well known in my brain and I don't have to think about both, then I'm good.
Well, for me, I find it incredibly challenging. I once performed on an open mic night, and when you said that's why when you said 150 people, I was like, oh my god! I once performed in front of about 50 people, and I was shit scared. And I wrote a song. It was a parody song of an Ed Sheeran song. It was "You Need Me, Man, I Don't Need You," and I was a private chef, so I wrote a song called "If You Need Feeding, Then We'll Feed You."
Oh, that's
So it
awesome.
was a parody song, and I'd written like three verses, like three raps, and the chorus was "We need feeding, and we'll feed you." And I knew the chords and stuff, but I played with an acoustic guitar on my knee. This was before my accident. And then on the open mic night, I had an electric guitar on a strap, and I every time I like moved my head to look at the chord changes, my mouth came away from the microphone, and I was like, oh my god, and I was just so nervous, and it was utter shite. But luckily, my friends were there, and they were like, yeah, go on, Fred, go on. So like they cheered me on, and it ended up being like but I was so nervous, my leg wouldn't stop shaking. In fact, that was actually before I even had spasticity. That was so weird. I had a shaky leg. I was so nervous, and it was so
That's really funny. So do you still play guitar?
I mean, I have one that hangs on the wall, so no,
I feel
not really.
you don't. Oh, I was
No, I haven't
like,
played it in ages.
challenge you to learn some sort of Christmas song, and then I'll make you play on here, and I'll play on here, and then we'll just be dumb on live.
I think that is probably the only way that I'll do stuff. Like we said last week, you joining the Patreon encouraged me to create content. If you challenge me to learn a song on the guitar, that is the only way that I'll pick it up, because it's
I'm going to challenge you to learn a song. What's an easy song? I don't know. I think Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer is an easy song, and it's Christmas, so learn that, and then.
All right. Well, on the subject of Christmas songs, this is not a Christmas song, but do you think that Die Hard is a Christmas movie?
I haven't honestly watched Die Hard in so long, but officially I would say yes, because it ended up being watched at Christmas in my family, and I know that that's always like a running thing, but I wanted to have like a Die Hard marathon a couple weekends ago, just to like reacquaint myself. Die Hard and what's the other one that I used to watch all the time that was with Mel Gibson and somebody else, but it was like two movies that were like similar that I always used to watch. Anyway, so, yes, officially.
I said to Chris the other day, so Chris was like, oh, let's we went to a Christmas market actually.
Oh, you just cut out. What's wrong with your internet right at the end?
It's France.
Oh, there you go.
And so we came back from the Christmas market, and it was like, yeah, let's settle in and let's watch a Christmas movie. And I was like, let's watch Die Hard. And she was like, Die Hard? I was like, yeah. Like, she was like, absolutely not. I was like, come on, please. It is definitely a Christmas movie. Anyway, I don't think she'd ever seen it. And we watched it, and she really liked it. she did fall asleep, but that doesn't mean that she doesn't like the movie. She falls asleep in front of
Yeah.
screens all the time. But I nudged her and she was like, oh, actually, it's actually really good. And she said that she doesn't think it's traditionally a Christmas movie, but like
Yeah.
as soon as like it comes in with Christmas music and
Mm.
and also she got the this is actually really embarrassing. She's gonna hate me for saying this, but she got the two black guys confused. There's only like two black guys in it. One's a limo driver and one's a bad guy. And she was like, "Oh, I can't believe it. I thought he was a good guy." I was like, I got really confused at first. I was like,
You're
"Hold
like,
on a
what?
second. You think they're the same people?" And she was like, well, they're dressed the same. I was like, one's wearing a woolly jumper, which is white, and the other one's wearing a tuxedo and is a limo driver. And I was like, the only thing they've got in common is they're both black. And she was like, oh, right, I was so confused.
I'm not gonna lie, I sometimes do that, and it's hard, which I think is like, that's like one of the things that I think people could be like, you're so racist or whatever when you do that. But it's not that, like, I don't know. I do it sometimes too. Like I was talking to my friend because I was teaching, and there was a lot of kids that were brown. So they were all from different, countries. Like, I don't even know. Like they were some, but some, I couldn't get their names right. And so like I asked my friend who's also brown, and I was like, can you help me? Because I keep messing up their names. And so he was telling me where their origin of their name was from so that I could understand where they were actually from. Because he's like, that's Iranian, or that is like actually Indian. That one is like from Pakistan. And I was like, oh, that helped so much. Like, and it wasn't that I was like, thought they were the same person. It's just, I knew that I was teaching a bunch of kids with names that were all from different countries.
Yeah.
And I was like trying to remember them. And I had like 4 names in my head. And so it was like bad. And I was like, they probably think I'm the most racist teacher ever, even though one came to my house for Halloween and he was like, oh my God. And he was so happy to see me. So I'm like, oh, you must not have thought I was a horrible person. They must get that all the time. But I'm like, that's like somebody, if we went to like another country and people thinking that like we all look the same because we're white, I don't know.
Who knows?
Who knows? But anyway, I get it.
It was a genuine mistake. It was just a very obvious like having a dig, just going, I can't believe you think they're the same people.
Yeah,
anyway.
I know.
She loved the movie, and but she was like, look, that's it. I was like, oh, we'll watch Die Hard 2 next, and she was like, no. She's like, that's it. We're going back to traditional Christmas movies. On that note, I know that we're running out of time, but do you have a favorite Christmas movie?
Oh, I have like a lot of Christmas movies that I would consider like my favorite, but I love Love Actually, which I don't know if it's a Christmas movie, but I think it's a Christmas movie because it takes place at Christmas. So I like that one. I have ones like the Santa Claus, like the whole series, like with Tim Allen. I love those movies. I like Sound of Music, which I think is a Christmas movie, but a lot of people don't think it's a Christmas movie. I don't know. I think it's a Christmas movie. And I'm trying to think of like other ones.
My favorite is Love Actually.
Yeah, I love that show.
Oh, it's so good because it's British. I'm like, it's got a spot in my heart because it's a British movie, but it's so good. It's so like, actually Brian Kinney messaged me the other day because randomly saying that he'd watched it and that he shed a tear, and I was like, oh mate, every time it gets me every time. It's also Hans Gruber, who is played by Alan Rickman, who, by the way, is, for those of you who don't know, is the main terrorist in Die Hard, is also in Love Actually. And I didn't realize that until Brian brought it up. And they're so wildly different. Hans Gruber is some ruthless terrorist. And Alan Rickman in the other movie, Love Actually, is just some goofy husband who's just bumbling around through life. And yeah, it's just so funny.
Yeah. It's such a good movie. Jamie hates that movie because the guy buys his secretary the necklace or whatever.
That's such a funny scene with Rowan Atkinson in the store, and he's like, would you like a boxer? He starts putting that is so good.
It is so funny. But Jamie's like, he wanted to cheat on his wife, and I'm like, but he didn't. Like, but he wanted to. I'm like, but he didn't.
Yeah.
I know, it's such a good movie.
He got his comeuppance because he was trying to do something naughty, and it was very, 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 very funny.
It was really funny. Yeah, it was so good. Yeah, I can't think of like Home Alone. Obviously, there's like a bunch of people saying Home Alone.
Home Alone.
My
Yes,
kids have watched Home Alone so many times. That's one of those movies that I'm like love, but also hate so much.
Yeah, I absolutely love that. I love the soundtrack. Ding ding diddle ding ding ding
Yeah,
diddle boop, boop,
yeah,
boop.
it's a
So
good
good.
one. Yeah.
Also, Sonia says that your last name means 90. I didn't
Yep.
know that. There you go.
It does. Yep, it means 90.
In German.
But I am not. I am actually German. I'm German on my dad's side because my grandma's mom came from Germany directly. And her last name is Mildenberger, so that's very German too. And then I married into a German family who's like Joe's grandpa came directly from Germany.
So what's
Yeah.
your what's the word? I've forgotten the word. But what's your name before the marriage?
My name before the marriage was Dodds, but only because my dad's dad was French and Canadian. So it was Dodds. And then on my grandma's side, my mom's side, we're like Norwegian and Irish. So like my grandpa's family came from Norway, and then my grandma's family came from Ireland. So I'm like all European, which most Canadians are. But
Oh, nice. Nice.
yeah.
Cool. Anyway, we should wrap things up. One of the all right, I've got to get this out properly. Last time we tried wrapping up the podcast, I tried to give another podcast a shout out, and I got cut off because of my bad internet connection. It's called the Backup and Thriving Podcast, and it's about travel. You'll easily find it on Spotify if you type it in. The host is Sophie Elwes, and she's from Backup Trust in the UK. I've been listening to them, and I think they are absolutely wonderful. Really, really good podcasts. They're all about getting outside your comfort zone, traveling in a wheelchair, overcoming fears. The last episode was with Sophie Morgan, who is a very popular influencer. And there's the one I listened to today was with a guy who was his name was George something, I forget, but he was in the Netflix show Sex Education, the quadriplegic guy.
Oh,
from that.
yeah.
Yeah. So, and he was talking about like traveling on trains and stuff like that. And it's just a really great podcast. Like, just I think it's really beneficial if you like podcasts to do with disability and traveling. Then that is a really good one. I wanted to give that a shout out.
Sweet. Yeah, I didn't get a chance to listen to it, but I always love disability content because there's really not that much of it out there. I feel like it's a really big void in the content creation space.
Yeah, I found another one actually called Sitting Tall podcast. I think I've literally just found it today. I can't give it a good old rating because I haven't listened to any yet. But Jesse Strawham, it was on one of the episodes. That's how I got to see it. So I don't know if it's any good or not, but like that Sitting Tall, I believe it's called. And there's another disability podcast. And like I say, I think it's great to give all of them a shout out because it's not a zero-sum game. You know, I feel like the more podcasts in this space, the better. So. And
different perspectives. Like everybody clicks with somebody different, and I think that's important because everybody's going to have somebody that, you know, Joe always jokes that when he tells me something it doesn't land, and then somebody else will tell me something. I'm like, I heard this profound thing today. He's like, I literally said that yesterday. Like, what were you listening to? And I think that's just how life is. Like, there is somebody that really can sort of penetrate your soul. Like, they just get right in there and go to the spot that matters. And for some people it's me, for some people it's you, and for some people it's other people, and that's okay. So yeah,
100%. Yeah, highly recommend that podcast. One of the tips that, in fact, I'll just say it right now. One of the tips that Sophie Morgan gave was when you're traveling with a battery, like say you've got a Batek or a Tri-Ride or something, take a screenshot of the rules that for the country that you're traveling to, because apparently she had some issues and they were going to kick her off the plane, and then she showed the pilot of the plane the screen grab of the rules, and then he was like, oh, okay, well, kind of, I don't know, it was a really good, like I say, full of handy travel tips. And and she's a big personality in the disabled space, and she like does a lot of advocating and stuff like that. So anyway, that's about it, isn't it? Shall we wrap it up?
Yeah, wrap it up, and we'll see you guys next week. And I'm gonna make Fred play a song on his guitar.
Oh, we forgot to mention it was what day is it today?
It's International Day for Persons with Disabilities today, which apparently doesn't matter to either Fred or I, but it does matter to somebody. So we thought maybe we'd just say that it is in case it matters to you. There's events going on in communities around the world. I'm sure there's one going on in my community and in the community nearest to me that's a bigger center. So go check that out if you are disabled and want to see what they are celebrating.
There you go. Yeah, that went under my radar as well, but apparently it's International Day for People with Disabilities.
Yeah, for persons with disabilities. I don't know what the difference between people and persons is, but it's persons.
Yeah. Why don't they say disabled people anymore?
I have no idea. I am really not sure because it's people with a disability. It's not a disabled person. They take the emphasis away from, it's not owning something. You know what I mean? So like an accessible stall is something that it's focusing on like the ability and not the inability. And when you say a person with a disability, it's the person first, disability second, instead of a disabled person puts the disability first and the person second. That's what I've been told.
Yeah, okay. I mean, I can see.
It all means the same thing.
It does.
It all
really does,
means the same thing. It's all semantics. It's all whatever. It's like changing, handicapped to disabled. It means the same thing, people. And if you're going to be an asshole and say something mean about somebody with a disability, it's not going to matter whether you say this person with a disability and then they say something really cruel, or you say that, crippled whatever. It don't matter. Either you're a kind person and you're trying your best and you might not use the perfect language, or you're an asshole and you're trying to be a dick and you're going to use whatever language is, you're going to use. So it doesn't matter to me, but it's International Day for Persons with Disabilities. So go check it out and go celebrate diversity today. I don't think I'm going to see how many people on a Tuesday afternoon are celebrating diversity in my community. But
the answer might surprise you.
The answer might surprise me, so I'll take some pictures and maybe share that next week. But yeah.
See you next week, everybody.
Bye, guys.
Merry Christmas. Ho, ho, ho.